Hello everybody, I'm Lily, founder of Lilo. Thank you so much for joining us on our second episode of Q&A on baby food allergies, brought to you by Mothercare and Lilo. I have with me today Katie Lowes-Switzer, a very experienced paediatric dietitian.
Hello everybody, my name's Kathy. I'm a dietitian from the UK. I trained in the UK and I worked there for 13 years in the NHS, predominantly at big children's hospitals. I moved to Singapore 2 years ago and have been working in clinics here in Singapore, and I've now, in the last 2 months, set up Kids Nutrition Singapore to help more of you out there with your children's nutrition and be there for you as a support with that.
And in our second episode on baby food allergy, we would like to ask Katie on how to deal with baby food allergies. So Katie, are there any foods to avoid when weaning your baby?
In terms of food allergies, unless your baby has a food allergy, I would say it's really important, this is a really important message, to get the food allergens in before the baby is 12 months old. So don't avoid getting food allergens into the baby's diet. Make sure that when you are introducing a food allergen, you leave maybe 2 or 3 days before introducing another food allergen. So when I'm talking about food allergens, or the main food allergens we talk about are milk, cow's milk, wheat, soy, egg, sesame, nuts, fish, shellfish, tree nuts. These allergens particularly are the ones we need in the baby's diet before their 12th month. There's no benefit to avoiding these foods unless your baby already has an allergen. So when you move away from the food allergens, we need to get them into the diet. In terms of general weaning, I think we need to avoid foods that are small and round and hard that can maybe get stuck in the baby's throat. So things like whole grapes, whole cherry tomatoes, whole nuts, but not avoiding maybe the different varieties, so pureed grapes or cut up grapes, pureed nuts or crushed nuts. Get those foods into your baby's diet, but just think about the form that you're putting them in there. The other food to avoid before the baby is 1 is honey. There's a very small chance that it contain a botulism toxin that can be harmful to a baby under 1 year old because their immune system is not built up enough to deal with that toxin. But after 1, they have a stronger immunity and the risk of that happening is very, very low. Other foods to avoid is just really practicing good food hygiene. So make sure meats are cooked well, fish is cooked well, shellfish is cooked well, eggs are cooked well. So don't avoid raw or semi-cooked foods in these varieties just from a bacterial risk. So practicing good food hygiene is important. And I'd say one of the other ones that is really important and that's vast in our diet at the moment is processed foods. So where you can, cook at home, avoiding foods high in trans fats, high in salt and high in sugar. So where you can, if you're making your homemade foods, it's very unlikely that your baby is going to be getting exposed to too many of these foods.
Right, great. What to look out for when it comes to allergy, like symptoms?
Symptoms with allergy. So there are 2 main types of allergy. There's an immediate onset reaction, and this will often be, the symptoms will come on within half an hour of the baby ingesting the food. So this could be swollen lips, a rash around the mouth or a rash on the body. It can be even more serious symptoms such as difficulty breathing. This is what we call an immediate onset allergy, and this needs immediate help. So when this happens, you get help immediately. And this is why it's really important to be with your baby when you're introducing foods. There's also delayed onset reactions that can contain, the symptoms can come up hours after ingestion, even a couple of days after ingestion of the food. And these can be more gastrointestinal symptoms, such as constipation or difficulty going to the toilet or diarrhea, or even a delayed rash or delayed fussiness. So these are the kinds of symptoms that may be indicating a food allergy. There may be even some blood in the baby's stools, so it's looking out for their stool changes. And if you are coming across any of these symptoms and you're worried, please see your paediatrician who will advise you further where to go. It may be that you need to see an allergist, it may be that you see a dietitian. And I will say, if you're cutting any foods or your paediatrician's advising you to cut any food group or any foods out of your child's diet, you get in touch with a paediatric dietitian who will help make sure that your child's diet is still adequate for your child to grow and get all the nutrients they need, but also not to cause any aversive food behaviours with all this chopping and changing of their diet.
Right, thank you so much. The next question will be, what do we do when a child has an allergy?
So if it's an immediate onset reaction, call for help straight away. If it's a delayed reaction, if you're noticing that when they have a certain food they are within hours or the next day they are having symptoms such as they're becoming unsettled, you're seeing a rash, you're maybe seeing runny stools or blood in the stools, I would see your paediatrician. If you can take, a record of what the baby has eaten in the last 24 hours or, the last few days, that's really helpful to the paediatrician or the dietitian to see what may have caused the problem. And I think when I was talking before about the allergies, it's quite important if you are introducing allergens, which we should be doing, we should be putting allergens in there, but when you do it, just leave a couple of days between the next allergen, because if there is an allergy, for example, if your baby was to have some bread with some wheat in it, and 2 days later, or a day later was starting to have runny poos, you could probably put that down to the fact that the new food was wheat, and you can say to your paediatrician, but never ever self-diagnose, so never sit there and say, yes, I know what it is. Go to your paediatrician and let them make the plan from there, whether your baby needs further investigation, or whether you try and take the food out and put the food back in again to see whether that's the food that's caused the problem. I will just say here, with the 2 different types of allergies, it will almost dictate which way you go in terms of testing and management. So if it's an immediate onset reaction, we can do what we call IgE tests, so blood tests or skin prick tests, where we put a little bit of the food on the baby's skin, and then a little tiny needle which lifts up a little bit of the skin, and we'll see if there's a reaction to the different foods. So they can put a little bit of milk, a little bit of nuts, a little bit of egg, and a wheel comes up if there is a reaction to that food. But this is only for the immediate onset reactions. So the more delayed reactions, there is no test. So there's no blood test, there's no test. So please don't spend lots of money on different types of tests for what we call the delayed reactions. The best way to figure out what is causing the problem with this is to remove suspected foods out of the diet with the help of a dietitian, and then gradually put that food back in to find out whether that's the food that causes a reaction. But if it's a delayed reaction, please don't go and find alternative tests, because the likelihood is that immediate test will come up negative if it's a delayed reaction. And so don't go and find more tests, all right? So that's just a big message. With the IgE reactions, the immediate reactions, it will come up positive. With the delayed, it will come up negative, and there are no further tests other than removing the food and putting it back in with the help of a dietitian.
It's very important knowledge.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing. The next question will be, how long should I give first tasters before I can mix recipes for babies?
Yeah, good question. I'd say start off with one food at the very beginning, at the very start, but there's no reason within the first couple of days you add in another food to that mixture. So for example, if you started with broccoli on day 2 or day 3, you could add in broccoli mixed with butternut squash, for example. So there is no reason why you can't be mixing foods from the very start. Again, with the allergens, just do these one day at a time and leave a couple of days between those allergenic foods. But other foods, there is no reason why you can't add a food. If it's okay, the next day add it to another food. So yeah, I would go from the first week. I would start mixing those foods together. There's no reason why you can't. And just going back to the allergies, although there's those 8 allergens, there can be other foods that babies are reacting to. And if you are worried, if you're concerned, do see your paediatrician and mention, the baby's having these reproducible symptoms after, if you're noticing a particular food, then do see somebody. Don't try and self-diagnose it or manage it yourself. Get help.
Thank you so much. So this brings us to the end of our second episode on baby food allergies, and we would like to extend a big thank you to Katie on coming on board to share with us on baby food allergies. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.